The Snuff-Box. As often happens in this world, there was once a young man who spent all of his time traveling. One day he was walking along and picked up a snuff-box. He opened it, and the snuff-box said to him, in the Spanish language, "What do you want?" He was very much frightened, but luckily, instead of throwing the box away, he only shut it tight and put it in his pocket. When he went on away, as he went, he said to himself, "If it says to me again, 'What do you want?' I shall know better what to say this time." So he took out the snuff-box and opened it, and again it asked, "What do you want?" "My hat full of gold," answered the youth, and immediately it was full. The young man was astonished. Henceforth he should never be in need of anything. So on he travelled away, through thick forests, till at last he came to a beautiful castle. In the castle there lived a king. The young man walked around the castle, not caring who saw him, till the king noticed him, and he asked what he was doing. "I was just looking at your castle." "You would like to have one like it, wouldn't you?" The young man did not reply. But when it grew dark, he took out a snuff-box and opened it. "What do you want?" "Build me a castle with layers of gold and tiles of diamond, with all the furniture of silver and gold." He had scarcely finished speaking when there stood in front of him, exactly opposite the king's palace, a castle built precisely as he had ordered. When the king awoke, he was dumbstruck at the sight of the magnificent house shining in the rays of the sun. The servants could not do their work for stopping to stare at it. Then the king dressed himself and went to see the young man, and he told him plainly that he was a very powerful prince, and that he hoped that they might live all together in one house or the other, and that the king would just give him his daughter to be his wife. So it all turned out just as the king wished. The young man married the princess, and they lived happily in the palace of gold. But the king's wife was jealous both of the young man and of her own daughter. The princess had told her mother about the snuff-box, which gave them everything they wanted, and the king bribed a servant to steal the snuff-box. They noticed carefully where it was put away every night, and one evening, when the whole world was asleep, the woman stole it and brought it to her old mistress. Oh, how happy the queen was! She opened the lid, and the snuff-box said to her, "What do you want?" And she answered at once, "I want you to make me and my husband and my servants in this beautiful house, and set us down on the other side of the Red Sea, but my daughter and her husband are to stay behind." When the couple awoke, they found themselves back in the old castle, and without their snuff-box. They hunted for it high and low, but quite vainly. The young man felt that no time was to be lost, and he mounted his horse and filled his pockets with as much gold as he could carry. And on he went, away, until he sought the snuff-box in vain, all up and down the neighboring countries. And very soon he came to an end of all his money. But he still went on, as fast as the strength of his horse would let him go, begging his way. Someone told him that he ought to consult the moon, for the moon traveled far, and might be able to tell him something. So he went away, and ended up, somehow or another, by reaching the land of the moon. There he found a little old woman who said to him,
"What are you doing here? My son eats all living things that he sees, and if you are wise, you will go away without consumming further."
But the young man told her all of his sad tale, and how he possessed a wonderful snuff-box, and how it's said to have been stolen from him, and how he had nothing left now that the parted from his wife and was in need of everything. And he said that perhaps her son, who traveled far, might have seen a palace with layers of gold and tiles of diamond and furnished with all silver and gold. As he spoke these last words, the moon came in and said he smelt mortal flesh and blood. But his mother told him that it was an unhappy man who had lost everything and had come all this way to consult him, and bade the young man not to be afraid and come forward and show himself. So he went boldly up to the moon and asked if by any accident he had seen a palace that was lathed with gold and tiles of diamonds and all the furniture of silver and gold. Once this house belonged to him, but now it was stolen. And the moon said, no, but that the sun traveled farther than he did, and that the young man had better go and ask him. So the young man departed, and went away, as well as his horse could take him, begging his living as he rode along, and somehow or other, at last he got to the land of the sun. There he found a little old woman, who asked him,
What are you doing up there? Go away! Have you not heard that my son feeds upon Christians?
But he said no, and that he would not go, for he was so miserable that it was all the same to him whether he lived or died, and that he had lost everything, especially a splendid palace like none other in the world, for it had layers of gold, and tiles of diamonds and furniture of all silver and gold, and that he had sought it far and long, and in all the earth there was no man more unhappy. And the old woman's heart melted, and she agreed to hide him. When the sun arrived, he declared that he smelt Christian flesh and meant to have it for his dinner. But his mother told him such a pitiful story about a miserable wretch who had lost everything, and had come so far to ask his help, that at last he promised to see him. So the young man came out from his hiding place, and begged the sun to tell him if in his course of his travels, if he had not seen somewhere a palace that was not like any in the whole world, for its layers were of gold, and its tiles of diamond, and all the furniture in silver and gold. The sun said no, but perhaps the wind had seen it, for it entered everywhere, and saw things that no one else ever saw. And if anyone knew where it was certainly the wind. Then the poor young man set forth as well as his horse could take him, begging for his living as he went, and somehow or other he ended up by reaching the home of the wind. He found a little old woman busily occupied in filling great barrels with water. She asked him what she had put into his head to come there, and her 8th son everything he saw, and that he would arrive shortly, and arrive quite mad, and that the young man had better look out. But he answered that he was so unhappy, and that he had ceased to mind anything, even being eaten. And then he told her all that he had been robbed of a palace that was not his fit and equal in the world, and of all that was in it, and that he had even left his wife, and was wandering over the world until he found it, and that it was the sun who had sent him there to consult the wind. So she hid him under the staircase, and soon they heard the south wind arrive, shaking the house from its foundations. Thirsty as it was, he did not wait to drink, but he told his mother that he smelt the blood of a Christian man, and that she had better bring him out at once and make him ready to be eaten. But she bade her son to eat and drink what was before him, and said that the poor young man, who was much to be pitied, the son had said that he should come to him to consult the wind. Then she brought out the young man, who explained that he was seeking for his palace, and that no man had been able to tell him where it was, so he came to the wind. And he added that he had been shamefully robbed, and that it had lays made of gold and tiles of silver, and all the furniture in silver and gold. And he inquired if the wind had not seen such palace in all his wanderings. And the wind said yes, and that all the day he had been blowing back and forwards and backwards without being able to move one single tile of it. "Oh, do tell me where it is," cried the young man. "It's a long way off," replied the wind, "on the other side of the Red Sea." But our traveler was not discouraged. He had already journeyed too far. So he set forth at once, and somehow or other he managed to reach that distant land, and he inquired if anyone wanted a gardener. He was told that the head gardener of the castle had just left, and perhaps that he might have a chance at getting on at the plows. The young man lost no time and walked up to the castle and asked if they were in want of a gardener, and how happy he was when they agreed to take him on. Now, he passed most of the day in gossiping with the servants about the wealth of their masters and the wonderful things in the house. He made friends with one of the maids, who told him the history of the snuff-box, and he had coaxed her to let him see it. One evening she managed to get a hold of it, and the young man watched carefully where she hid it away, in a secret place in the bedchamber of her mistress. The following night, when everyone was fast asleep, he crept in and took the snuff-box. Think of his joy when he opened the lid, when it asked him, as it had before, "What do you want?" He replied, "What do I want? What do I want? Why, I want to go with my palace to the old place, and for the king and the queen and all their servants to be drowned in the Red Sea." He hardly finished speaking when he found himself again with his wife, and all the other inhabitants of the palace were lying at the bottom of the Red Sea.